Because I've been going through a lot. I've been going through a lot of emotional distress, trauma, dealing with my sexual traumas, a lot of heavy, dark, low vibration emotions, a little bit of depression, numbness in general, just dark stuff, which we all do. And that's what I've been going through and dealing with. And so I haven't really posted any videos because I haven't had the emotional energy to do so. I recorded a video a few months now because I recorded it like right after I broke my hand, which my hand now is in much better condition. I should have my brace on, I don't, but in much better condition. So my hand's all healed up since the last time I recorded. Well, I've recorded a couple videos, but they all feel too vulnerable. Which is why I'm doing this video in the way that I'm doing it, because talking about difficult things can feel vulnerable, and it requires vulnerability, and vulnerability is scary and sometimes hard, but necessary. I have been directed to share about my sexual abuse and be a tool to help other people overcome sexual abuse. Now, I would like to say this. My sexual abuse trauma still hurts. It still hurts all the time. I was molested when I was like 4. I don't have all of the details about that. I just have vague memories of it. I can remember who. I have an idea of what it could have been based off of behavior that has been a pattern in my life since then. But I don't remember like all the specific details, but you don't have to remember to be traumatized. So that started when I was 4, and then by the time I was 15, I lost my virginity by 15, and I was in a sexual relationship with somebody that did not respect my boundaries. Meaning that I would say, no, I don't want to have sex. No, I don't want to be fingered. No, I don't want you to touch me. And my feeling and opinion did not matter. It didn't matter at all. So if he wanted to have sex, it didn't matter that I didn't want to. I would just stare into the sky and wait for it to be over. If he wanted to do something to me, it was kind of like I just didn't have a choice. So I tried to want to most of the time because it felt better when I wanted to. But when I didn't, that's just what it was. And starting then, I kind of got into a pattern of not respecting my own wishes. Like, what I wanted in the situation doesn't matter. And I really truly believe that, and I still struggle sometimes, like telling people no. Not because I don't want to. I've always wanted to. It's just when you believe that what you want doesn't matter on a deep inside level, then what does matter is pleasing. For me, what did matter was pleasing whoever it was, so that I had my value. My value comes from your pleasure, right? So by the time I was 15, I was in a relationship where my opinion was not valued, it did not matter. By the time I was 17, I was raped the first time, like, that I remember, like, where I said no, I pushed off, I tried to stop it, and it did not matter. It did not matter. It was this random white guy from a class that I was in. I started Calhoun College, and he just forced himself on me. And I felt a lot of guilt from that, because I felt like it's my fault that I went to his house. We were supposed to be doing a project together. We were assigned each other as partners. And then we were supposed to, as partners, get together at some point in between class to do this project. And we met at his house. And I felt like, I should have known better than that. I was 17, and he was a white stranger, and I went to his house. And I felt guilty, and that it was my fault. And then after he raped me, I had sex with him a couple of more times because I don't know why, honestly. I didn't want to. He was still in my class. I couldn't get away from him. It was always terrible. I always cried after. But I did have sex with him a couple more times, which to me built even more so into the guilt. Like, why would you even, why? You should be screaming and yelling from the rooftops that he raped you. Why would you have sex with him again? Why would you allow him to touch you again, even though you don't want to? And I didn't understand why I would do something like that. And it just added to the shame that I felt in my life. Ashamed of myself. Why did I felt incapable of speaking up for what I actually wanted. But again, what I wanted didn't matter. Then I had a lot of trauma from that. When people would remind me of him, I'd like freak out. And it was just difficult. Then after that, I was violated by a friend of mine. It was a friend, he'd been my friend for a long time. And we hadn't really been talking because, I just felt like I didn't like him anymore. We'd been friends for years. And the person that he was by that point in my life, we'd been friends since like 8th grade. But the person that he was by that point in my life, I didn't like him anymore. I didn't want to be his friend. I didn't want to talk. And he would hit me up every now and then, but I always felt like it was just like to use me for what I could give to him. Not sexually, but just, entertainment. I don't know. But he came to my house one night. I don't remember locking the door to the front door to my house. And he had asked me if he could come over, and I told him no. But I just know that I was in my bed asleep. And I have vague memories of being sexual. Like, just vague memories of being touched. Not really a whole lot. And when I woke up the next morning, there was a condom on my floor. And I was like, why is there a condom? It really just, I was like, what the hell? Where did this condom come from? And I went into picked up my phone, like, to take a picture of the condom so I could text my mom, like, yo, there's a condom on my floor and I don't know where it came from. And when I picked up my phone, I saw the messages from him where he had said, hey, I'm coming. Hey, I'm here. Hey, can you open the door? Never mind, it's unlocked. But I didn't see any of those messages the night before. And the only reason I knew that he came was because of the messages. Well, once I saw the messages, that's when I started getting flashes of what had happened the night before. And so there was a lot of shame involved with that too, because it's like, how do you not feel, or how do you not become present when someone is being sexual with you? Mentally present, like, I don't even know if he actually put his dick inside of me. Like, I don't know. But how do I not know? I was there. And I sleep, but I'm not that heavy of a sleeper. So how did this happen? Shame. Tons of shame. I let this happen. I allowed this to happen to me. And even though he was my friend that ran over my boundaries and did things to me against my permission, against my will, how did it even happen though? I didn't call the police, because who would believe that you slept through someone coming into your house and touching on you? I believed that it was my fault. So I couldn't even imagine that this would go well if I like got the police involved. So I told my dad, I told my mom, because I really did feel like I was wronged. And they talked to him, and he said, "Oh, Mr. Bates, you know how Whitney is." And it was dropped. No one said anything else about it. I mean, I've talked about it in counseling, but that was it. You know how Whitney is, Mr. Bates. What does that even mean? I didn't know. But, and my dad accepted that as an answer. I wanted someone to stand up for me. And when my dad didn't stand up for me in that situation, I really felt like I'm not worth being stood up for, which added on to the what I want doesn't matter, how I feel doesn't matter, just this pattern and this belief of not mattering to other people. I mattered to myself, but not really. What mattered way more to me than me was making other people pleased with me. I'm a pleaser. I want to make you happy, and I feel like I can do it, and that's my goal. And so that just kind of got swept under the rug, and that was that. I avoided him at church, and I haven't seen him in a long time, and I'm happy about that. Definitely we never talked again. I messaged him and told him he was a rapist, but we didn't like talk after that. That was it. Then right after I had my middle child, Benjamin, I had my own apartment. I had my 2 kids, and I was lonely. Benjamin was like 5 months, maybe. I was lonely and depressed a little bit. And I thought, it's time for me to get into a relationship. So I got on Tinder, and I had hung out with a few different people. They all either just wanted sex, or I was like, I'm not interested in you at all. And so I wasn't having very much luck with it. And I met this guy, and we talked for, a couple of weeks, messaging back and forth. And I was in a position with my job and the baby. I didn't really have time to go out and hang out with people. So to make that easier, just you come to my house. Once my kids are asleep, we can see how it goes and go from there, right? So I had invited him over at like 8 o'clock. I wanted it to be early enough so it wasn't like a booty call or get this weird whatever. And I don't remember his name. I don't even remember what it looks like, but we talked for a couple of weeks, and I invited him over, and we sat on the couch. I made sure there was like a lot of distance on the couch. Like I did not want any problems, right? And I knew that it was risky to meet somebody that you had never met, but it's kind of like, what are my options? Not meet anybody? Like I'm just supposed to be alone, right? That's what I was thinking. And so I felt like it was fine, and so he came over. We did like a nice little side hug. We sat on the couch. I sat on one end, he sat on the other, but I faced him and we talked. And I wasn't very attracted to him now that we were in person. And once I started listening to his mindset, I was like, I don't think I like him. This is not gonna work. And so I was like, okay, well, it was nice talking to you. At this point, it's like 9:15 tops latest. And I was like, it's nice talking to you. I'm glad you got the chance to come over. We've been trying to hang out for a while now. We tried several times throughout the 2 weeks that we were messaging back and forth. And he was like, all right. So he gets up and he walks to the door and he says, can I at least get a hug or something? I said, oh, yeah, no problem. So I gave him like a little side hug. He's like, no, I want a real hug. I'm like, okay. And I go in for a real hug, and I don't remember how it all broke down exactly, but I gave him a hug, and then I had on jeans and a belt and shoes and a shirt. I was fully dressed. It was not easy access, fully dressed. And somehow he started getting really aggressive during the hug, and I was like, whoa, like, chill out. And it just escalated really quickly. He pushed me down. He was trying to get my pants off, and I was like, dude, stop. Like, I don't want to have sex, like, at all. I'm not in the mood. You know, I just met you. No. Like, this is not what this is happening. This is not happening. And at the time, like, in those moments, I was not worried about him forcing it. I just thought he thinks this is something it's not. And so I was like, listen, no. But he kept trying to pull down my pants and trying to convince me. And I'm like, listen, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this at all. And he stopped to put on a condom. And while he did that, I went to the door, I opened it, and then I went back over to him and I pushed him, like, you gotta go, like, get out of my house, right? And we kind of tussled a little bit, like, you know, like me trying to drag him out. I don't know what I just thought I could get away. Like, I did not think that, I don't know what I was thinking, but it escalated so quickly. And next thing I know, he's got my pants pulled down, not all the way down to my ankles, just enough to violate me. And the whole time I'm trying to pull him up, and I'm yelling at him, like, please stop this, stop, leave me alone. You realize you're raping me, right? I don't want this. I'm asking you to stop. And he's like, it's not rape. I have on a condom. Like, nigga, what? It's still rape. I don't want this. I literally have been telling you this. Like, only thing I was willing to do was give you a side hug, and now you're inside of me, and I don't want it. But in that time, I had always felt like in every other situation that I didn't speak up enough for myself, and that's why, you know, people had their way with me when I didn't want to. Is because I wasn't loud enough. I didn't fight hard enough, which tons of guilt about that too. Like, well, if you really didn't want it, why didn't you fight harder? Why didn't you scream? You know, I would just give up. If I felt like I didn't have any options and it was going to happen, I'd just be like, this sucks. But this is what's going to happen, so I might as well just lay down and wait for it to be over. And so this time, you know, I was like, I've matured. You know, it's been 8 years since, like, the stuff with my first boyfriend, and it had been a couple of years since the stuff that happened with my ex-friend. And I was like, listen, like, I'm stronger now. I know what I want. I know that I don't want this, and all I have to do is fight, and it won't happen to me. And I think that's the one that I have the most trouble with when I think about my past and my experience with my sexual trauma, is that one, because I actually spoke up for myself, and I thought it would matter. And I actually fought, like, literally I fought. The entire time, I did not allow it to happen. And it still happened anyway. And I didn't call the police, again, because part of me was like, I've been through this shit before. Like, this ain't the first time I've been raped or abused in this way. And I'll be all right. It's kind of how I felt. And then also, you know, it's the third situation in like 5 years. Not 5 years, 8 years, but I just felt like this keeps happening. People aren't even going to believe that it's not my fault. I wasn't even sure that it wasn't my fault. So I just, when he left, I locked the door. I went to my room, I locked the door, and I cried. And it surprised me how upset I was about it, because I just felt like, this is life, this happens, and it's happened to me a bunch. So I was very surprised that I even cared. I thought I wouldn't care. I thought it would be fine. And when I realized how badly, like, I was crying all the time, like I could not stop crying. And he was still messaging me like, sorry about that, you know, I just got a little excited. Like it was no big deal. Like it was no big deal. Like he hadn't just literally raped me. He was still messaging me. And I know I blocked his number, and I told a couple of people about it, and you know, no one really did anything. You know, like the men in my life, like my dad and the kid's dad, you know, all the people that swore up and down, I got you. Like if anything happened to you, I'm going after that person. I'm going to protect you. Like that, I feel like I never got that. Which again, I also didn't call the police. So, you know, there's a lot of guilt and shame about that too. Like, why didn't you? You had the opportunity to, but you didn't. Why not? And so, that was that time. That was the worst. That was the worst. But they all accumulate. They all build up. It's all bad. It all sucks. So after that, I know this is getting to be a long video, but I just have so much, which I'm sure that there are people that their dad did it every day, you know? So I'm not saying that I'm alone in abuse. I'm actually sharing all of this because I know that I'm not alone. And even though it sucks and it's hard, still, I have some tools that can help all of us women and men out there that have been violated. So that was in like 2016 with that guy. Then I moved. I dropped my job. I left everything in Huntsville and I moved to Atlanta. And that was that. I was in I feel like an emotionally abusive relationship, but you know, I didn't know any better. I didn't have any sense of self. Again, you know, I'm not worthy. What I want doesn't matter. Those are the messages that I have. So it was a really tough relationship. And then it ended, and I had a friend from work that when it ended, he would come over and bring groceries and, hey, I'm just your friend, I'm here for you, blah, 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 right? And he ended up violating me as well. Then I got a new job, and as soon as I got there, there was this guy, and he was telling me that he thought I was such a great scrub, and I do such a great job, and I have such a great spirit, and the surgeons like me, and he liked me too. And I appreciated the compliments and all that other kind of stuff. And then during the case, he started like rubbing himself against me. And I told him, like, no, stop, like, that's inappropriate. He was my preceptor, meaning he was training me to work with the doctors that he worked with, because I was new. I was still in orientation. And so he told me that there was some equipment that he had been telling me about earlier in the day that he wanted to show me so I knew where it was and I can get it if I was in these cases. And I was like, okay, cool. So he kind of pointed like, here, go this way. And we opened up a closet, which did have positioning supplies, but not what he said was going to be in there. And then he shoved me into the wall and shoved his tongue down my throat. And he was groping me and feeling all over me. And I understand that in certain situations that can be sexy, that can be fun, that can be, you know, all kinds of things. But in this situation, it was a man that I did not know, that I was not attracted to, that I had already told or said, hey, like, back off when he was getting a little too close to me during the case, being very inappropriate during the case. And I felt assaulted. I felt assaulted 100%. And I told him that, and I said, listen, I need to take you to HR. Like, this is a problem. You can't do that to people. And to me, that was much smaller, than everything else that had happened. But, at this point in my life, when small things happen, it triggers all the rest of it. So, yeah, some people might say that, oh, he just kissed you. But, like, that's a violation. That is a violation. I don't want your tongue in my mouth. Like, I should be able to choose not to have your tongue in my mouth if I don't want to. And so he offered to pay my bills and all this other kind of stuff. And I felt like, I don't want to get him in trouble. Everybody likes him. I'm just going to drop it and leave it alone. So I did. And then he called me one day when I was off of work. And I didn't know it was him because we'd never talked on the phone before. I didn't recognize his number. And I answered the phone. And when I heard his voice, I had like a panic attack. And I like hung up and I was like freaking out. Like, oh my God. He called me. I don't want this. And the kid's dad, we weren't together at the time, but he was there when it happened. And so he called him back and said, he called again. And my ex answered the phone and was like, dude, she told me what you did. You can't do that. Don't call this number anymore. And he was like, oh, no. I'm just calling because I want to see if she'd take a shift for me. And then when I got back to work, he was mean. He was a bully. He was talking bad about me to surgeons. Like, I felt very uncomfortable at work. And then they kept putting me in his room. I was still in orientation, and he's treating me like absolute crap. And I was like, you know what? I don't deserve this. I didn't force myself on him. I didn't do anything to him. And I'm still getting abused. So I went to HR, and I told them what happened. And HR concluded, they did their investigation, and they concluded that I couldn't prove it. And so it didn't matter. And it's like, what? How am I supposed to prove when there's no cameras? I showed you the text messages. I showed you that he called me. I'm telling you what happened, but they said I couldn't prove it. So nothing happened. Nothing happened, which again reinforces not worthy. What you want doesn't matter. What you say doesn't matter. How you feel doesn't matter. What people do to you does not matter. Even in corporate America, where they should be like on their ass trying to make sure that they're covering themselves to protect themselves, they just told me can't prove it, so oh well. And then most recently, it happened again at work with a different man. I think that a lot of people, men, and people in general, I don't have this experience with women forcing themselves on me, but I think that a lot of people in general feel like are just so in touch with what they want and how they feel that they don't take into regard how it's affecting the other person. And for me, I feel like I'm a very bright person. I'm a bubbly person. I'm very kind to people. I offer kindness and love as much as I can to everyone that I can. And it's attractive. People like it. And then on top of that, I exude sexual energy. Sexual energy just like wafts off my skin. I just walk down the hallway and it's just coming, and it's just a part of who I am. And that's the way that God made me, and that's okay. It's okay for me to be a person with tons of sexual energy. In fact, when you start looking into infinite intelligence and energy work in general, and like some of the most powerful energy is that sexual energy. And once you learn to transmute that energy, you're doing great things. So me having sexual energy and tons of it is not a bad thing. I've always thought it was, because I'm attracting these people to me. It's just so strong that they can't help themselves, but that's not the case. It's not the case. Everybody has a choice. Everybody can help themselves, and some people choose not to. So the most recent, right before I broke my hand, like the same day. And then I broke my hand, and I haven't been to work in 3 months. And so I haven't really had to deal with that last one. I got a letter in the mail saying, I called my manager and I told my manager what happened, because I feel like my voice should be heard, even if on the other side of it, nothing happens or there's no real consequences. But now, like, I don't even want to go back to work because I don't want to deal with it. I'm just tired. I'm tired of it. Like, why do I have to be triggered? Why does my elaborate, well, it feels elaborate to me. Again, I know that there are people that have been through way more, and I'm not in the space of comparing or what's worse. But for me, it's just like, it's been too much. It's been too much abuse, too much disregard for me. And why do I have to deal with that at work? Why can't I just go to work and help you open your case without being, attacked? I felt attacked. Anytime a man's tongue is in your mouth and you don't want it, that is freaking disgusting. Like, I hate it. I hate it. And it's like, why can't I just be at work without being touched against my will? Why can't, and so that is the history. That is everything that I can remember in this moment of my sexual abuse and my sexual trauma. And sometimes when I think about it, or sometimes even when I'm not trying to think about it, it'll just come up. And with it, it's just all this pain. Pain of not feeling worthy. It's a ton of pain. And when you're going through that kind of pain, it's hard to see how to deal with it. I've been to counseling. I've talked about it a little bit. I was in counseling for years, not necessarily about the sexual trauma specifically, but we talked about one of my sexual traumas at the time. And I feel like there's a lot of people out here with sexual trauma that have no idea how to deal with it. So I want to share some of the stuff that I do. And I know now at this point, this video is 30 minutes long. So we'll just call this an introductory video. Just know that if you are out there, I'm going to do another video. I'm probably going to be doing a lot more videos talking about how I deal with this, because that's what God wants me to do right now. So, but I just want you to know, for all of you guys out there that have been through sexual trauma, sexual abuse, molestation, any kind of, whatever it is, that's what I'm most familiar with, the sexual trauma. I did end up having a little bit of emotional and physical abuse a couple of years ago, but the grand majority of my abuse has been sexual. That there are things that you can do. I don't know that these things will ever take the pain away completely, because my pain's not gone, and it's really hard all the time. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. So, but there are things that you can do. There's a lot of things that you can do that help. And I'm going to share a few of my ways that I know that work for me. And there's hope. And no matter how bad you feel about yourself, or how much you feel like it's your fault, how unworthy you feel, how unheard you feel, it's not true. You are whole, you are complete, and you can heal, and I can heal, and we can all heal, and we can help each other. And we need to talk about this. So if you stuck with me through all 35 minutes of this video, I appreciate it. Thank you for listening to my story. Feel free to comment. As much as I hate talking about this shit, I guess I'm supposed to be talking about it. So feel free to comment. Let's, you know, if you have something to say, if you want to talk about it, if you need somebody to talk to, you know. So this is me coming to you from as vulnerable a place as I know how to. It's okay to be vulnerable. I love you. I love me. And I hope you got something out of this.